Welcome to Nighttime a Little Extra. My name is Adeyemi Adesoya. And I want to thank everybody that's joined me in the series that I've been doing of late, talking to people in the sports industry, from John Prane to Tim Capo, to Bodo Gutuyi, to Momene Lao, to Dijomoto Igbo, to Jimmy Oshinaki and the likes. Thank you for your support, all to interesting feedback that I've gotten all the while, and it's nice to continue this. Today we're going to Italy. I have the pleasure of introducing Nima Tavallaey Roodsari to everybody. He's an Italian journalist whose specialty is covering transfer news, and most especially as it relates to Serie A. Welcome to United Little Express, a little extra, Nima. How are you doing
Thanks a
today?
lot. I'm good. Well, I just got to correct you on a couple of things there, though. I'm not Italian. I work with Italian football, but I'm not Italian. I was born in Iran and I was raised in Sweden. I speak Italian fluently, as I studied it in high school and also in Italy at university in Florence. And secondly, I don't live in Italy right now. I live in Sweden, which again is the country I'm based. But again, I cover Italian football, just so we're clear from the get-go.
Fantastic. Still Italian true and true, like it or, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
So how's it been in Sweden with the whole coronavirus thing? What's going on over there?
No, I mean, it's the same as everywhere else. I mean, things are shutting down. Things are, it's come like an earthquake, like a nuclear bomb almost. It's thrown everything off. People are completely, you know, everything is shut down pretty much. The lockdown, I mean, it's a different kind of lockdown here. It's more voluntary because Sweden is run on voluntary behavior. It's not. There's no laws passed to force people to stay at home. The authorities recommend people to stay at home, and people stay at home. And I think the reason for that is mainly because all governments lie to their citizens, but the Swedish government hasn't lied as much to the Swedish citizens as other countries have, and therefore Swedish citizens have more trust their government more. So it's just that it's not that Swedes are better or anything else. It's just that we haven't been lied to as much yet, I might add.
That's
But
interesting.
I mean that's the same for everywhere. Politicians lie everywhere. It's just it's an issue of quantity, I'd say. So no, that's what this is about. You know, that's what's happened. So you know, Sweden is in voluntary lockdown, and I've been in voluntary lockdown since February, pretty much.
Oh,
So but it's slowly, you know, they're slowly flattening the curve. The whole idea here was to not to prevent people getting it, but to prevent those in risk groups getting it, like the elderly, the sick. Because they knew that this is impossible to protect the public from. This is a virus that will spread like wildfire, and what they need to have it, because a lot of people, an overwhelming majority of people, are either asymptomatic or have very mild symptoms when they contract this virus, which in and of itself means that what they wanted from the beginning was to let this virus spread, you know, in a consistent and calm, you know, in terms of speed, so that the health service doesn't become overwhelmed, whilst also protecting the elderly and the sick. Now, in terms of that, and that's in that context is what they've spoken about herd immunity, and we can already see that it's working. The issue in Sweden has been that Sweden has not been able to protect the risk groups as well as other Scandinavian countries. I mean, we have 3,000 people dead, majority over 75, 80 years old. That's where we failed. But in terms of the strategy overall, in terms of the spread of virus and how it goes, it's on par with all other countries that have a military style lockdown. It's just that here, you know, you can't stop this virus. It's as simple as that. You just have to let it, you know, slow it down, slow the spread down as much as you can, so that people, so that it, so that it, you know, it goes through the population, and when people get sick, the health services don't become overwhelmed. So that's been the strategy, and it's working.
well, that's interesting. But what would you say about the likes of Germany, who seem to be persistent in getting football back and running?
Well, Germany have gone. I mean, first, what started was Germany first didn't take this seriously, and when they. But the thing is with Germany is that when they did take it seriously, they were very quick and able to go from from nothing to full on, and they locked everything down for a couple of weeks, for about a month and a half, and because they managed to slow the spread down, now they're returning back to partial, opening up slowly, slowly, slowly to control the spread of the virus, to so that their health service isn't overwhelmed. And a part of that is football, because I mean Germany has since the Second World War pretty much had stocks of PPE, medicine, and all that stuff in place. So Sweden didn't. That's one of the reasons why a lot of our elderly have died, because we weren't prepared for this, and that's something that's going to be addressed after the crisis is over. Germany have been prepared, and so it was an easy, the organization was there, so switching on the button was easier for them once they decided to switch on the button. And you can see that, I mean, they've handled it brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, since realizing that they need to actually impose a lockdown. And you'll see Germany, will slowly return back to normal life over the next 6 months to a year. And they'll, because they don't want to, they don't want this kind of wildfire spread. And I think German football coming back is a sign of a very well organized society as a whole, which Germany is.
So you think that it is fine for football to return,
No,
despite the fact
no,
that
no. I didn't say that. I said that it depends on the country. Germany is a special case because Germany is well prepared to handle these issues. Countries like Italy were not well handled, were not prepared in handling this, and therefore they did not handle it well. The UK did not handle this well and were not prepared, as is evident by everything that comes out of the UK. The United States were absolutely not prepared well and did not handle this well. So, but Germany did, Norway did, Sweden did, Denmark did, Austria, New Zealand, China, Vietnam, South Korea. All these countries were well prepared, and so they handled it. Although they were different, they handled it differently. But overall, if you look at it, they were better prepared than most others, and so they handled it really well. And therefore, the return to normalcy, including football, is easier for them than countries that weren't prepared. Mm.
well, I'm just a bit skeptical
Mm.
to open things up again
Mm.
because I just feel that you're going to make there are too many people who will be more vulnerable with football opening up.
But it's going to be behind closed doors. Let's not forget that. It's not going to be
Yeah,
open. It's not open to the public. It's the games are going to be played behind closed doors. And whether or not, I haven't seen any reports on how they're going to do this. Are they all going to play in the same area or on the same pitches, or if they're going to have home and away? Because given that they're not going to play with any supporters, it doesn't really matter if it's home and away, because it's going to be in empty stadiums. So I mean, football is going to return, but it's going to return behind closed doors. So be prepared for that for the next year. It's going to be played behind closed doors. You can't have 80,000 people moving about. You just simply can't. Not when you have a virus that spreads like wildfire. It's just not doable. That is, once we're back to that, then we can say that we got a control over this virus. But in order to have that, you need to have a vaccine, and that's not in the works.
well, let's go to more well personal matters. Let's leave the virus alone. It's unfortunate what is going on. Yes, we do want football to come back, but at the same time, I'm just like I said, I'm skeptical. So let's talk about you. What was your early career life like as a journalist, especially a multinational like yourself? Swedish, Iranian, a little bit of Italian, and all that. So, what was your early career, life like?
Well, I mean, I was studying law in the University of Wales in Aberystwyth in between 2006 and 2009. And before that, I was doing English literature and language, English language and English and literature and American literature at the university here in Sweden. So I wasn't really going to start. You know, I didn't have any plans to join journalism, to do journalism, but it's something that kind of grew on me through, because I've always followed football and I've always been passionate about it. And so I was recommended by a friend to write about Italian football in the Swedish fan site. And I did, and it went really well. I really enjoyed it. And then I went to university, and in my third year, just as I'd begun my third year, the credit crunch happened. The entire economy of the West fell apart, which meant that graduate jobs were about as common as intelligent statements on Donald Trump's timeline on Twitter. They were non-existent. So it was non-existent. So basically what happened was I needed to move away. I needed to find something else to do. Although but to be perfectly honest, by that time I'd already decided against a career in journalism, in law, and kind of wanted to move over to something else. And I did a market analysis. I've supported Inter since I was 8 years old in the 80s. I saw that I saw a hole in the market for Inter news in English. And I did a 2-month long analysis looking at if there is a market, if there is a potential, how big it can be, etc., etc. And then I decided that I wanted to do this. And so I started the site in 2012 in February, first in Swedish for the first 2 years, just to kind of get myself, because it's a smaller audience, and also just to kind of learn whilst I was doing it. And once I felt that I knew what I was doing, I launched it in English as well. And since then, I've worked for calciomercato.com, goal.com, and DiMarzio.com, Gianluca Di Marzio. And what I've done for them is basically everything from, for Di Marzio was news reporting as well, and I also did my own interviews and exclusives as well, which I brought to the site. But for Goal, it was all about exclusives. For Calciomercato, it was both exclusives and news writing.
Well, let me ask you, I'm not one of the biggest fans of Goal.com. What was that experience like? Did you work with Carlo Cagnesi?
Yeah, Carlo Garganese is actually my contact at Goal, and he's a good friend. I really had an excellent relationship working with him.
I have this friend. There's some people on this Zoom that will know him. Jeffrey is a big fan of Carlo Cagnesi. He's based in Canada now, though. Surprised he's not on this chat because a big Milan fan. It's not in the Nerazzurri, and he's always, all over us with Carlo Cagnesi. I'm like, come on, forget about this guy.
No, Carlo I really like Carlo. He's an excellent writer. He's a brilliant journalist. He's one of the best editors I've ever worked with. He's very professional. He's very good. I have only good things to say about him.
Fantastic. All right, so let me ask you, what's your first football memory that you can remember?
On TV or at a stadium?
Both.
On TV, I would say it has to be World Cup '86. I was 5 years old. Maradona's World Cup. Without a shadow.
That was probably my first two.
Yeah, that's my first memory. I think it's Italy, Argentina is the first one. Yeah, I think that's the one. I think in '86. Yeah, that's the first one I remember on TV. And my first football experience watching live at a stadium is when I'm 8 or 9, and I'm with my my grandmother who's passed away now. She was a huge football fan. Little old lady, lovely lady who absolutely loved football, and she and I went to a game to here in Sweden, in Gothenburg, IFK Gothenburg. Yeah, so I went with her. Actually, it was really fun. So yeah, it was with my grandmother. Yeah. I can't hear you. You're on mute. Sorry. Yeah.
So that was your first experience, live at the stadium?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in your time as a journalist, what are those memorable things you've seen on the beat? Um,
I'd say the most memorable thing I've seen out on the field. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, obviously, you know, when you're there. I mean, I used to be at the San Siro uh, a lot back then, and I was very privileged to do a lot of things on location and stuff like that. And you did a lot of interviews, and I'd say one of those probably most memorable was interviewing Javier Zanetti. Was probably the first time I interviewed him. It was really, really memorable. But I mean, if we're looking overall at the most memorable thing I've done in my career, I'd say it would be the Freddy Guarin story that I broke before everyone. I was sitting at home and found the right person that could confirm a rumor that was flying about. Because I mean, you have to remember, this was January, I think it was 2014. Inter were in a mess. Guarin was sitting in Juventus headquarters. Vucinic was on his way to Inter's headquarters to sign the contract. Inter fans all over the world, including Italy, completely lost it when they found out that Inter were going to send the only player they could have cashed in on, Freddy Guarin, for Mirko Vucinic, who was so not being, like, he was so deep in Antonio Conte's freezer at Juventus that he needed to first thaw him up with a pair of hair dryers. I mean, he had not played for ages, and this deal did not make sense. And what happened was Eric Tohier, then President Eric Tohier, he just simply backed off. He pulled the plug on it, and it caused complete chaos, and it pissed Juventus off to no end, which everyone at Inter found incredibly amusing. But so what? All Inter fans found it incredibly amusing, because pissing Juventus off is kind of what you do if you want to become you know, that, it doesn't matter if you screw yourself, as long as you piss Juventus off, then you're fine. So it is at that level. But no, we were the first. You know, everyone was saying that the deal was done. We were the first to break the story that it wasn't done, and in fact, the deal was off because Inter's president had pulled the plug on it. We were first, and that was our big break, and my big break in journalism.
Let me ask you this: do you think the Italian season could end by July?
This is the $1 million question, isn't it? What's going to happen? I don't think the Serie A. I think the Serie A it's very 50-50. We don't know what's going to happen. Basically, there's a meeting today or tomorrow between the Italian FA and the government health officials to agree on a protocol that must be followed at all games in order for games to proceed. And based on those, you know, are those protocols, you know, can they be followed? And if they are followed, so basically, I mean, everyone wants to continue, because if they don't continue, and they stand to lose 800 million euros this season in TV rights, that's a lot of money. A lot of clubs can go bust. But at the same time, you don't want it affecting the next season too much either. So I think it's all very touch and go right now. Very touch and go. We'll have to wait and see. I think the situation will become much clearer over the next 3 days.
I think that if Germany are able to get it right, others might be able to follow suit. Just probably take the template Germany have put in place and probably run with it.
Well, that's the thing. You can't do that. You can't do that because, again, as I said, Germany is different from Italy. Germany the infrastructure and social networks in place in Germany are far more robust than they are in Italy. And they were better prepared. So that's another thing. Italy showed that they weren't prepared for this. So we'll have to see. As I said, it's all touch and go. We'll have to see. It's very touch and go.
There's this argument. You spoke about Javier Zanetti earlier. There's this argument about where he ranks amongst the best fullbacks in the world. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, at Inter, he played every single role on the pitch except for goalkeeper, and he did it absolutely brilliantly. I mean, he was an excellent midfielder. He was an excellent right fullback, left fullback. He did everything for Inter, and he did it up until such a very high age. It's very difficult to say, really. But I mean, for me, I mean, if we're talking in Inter, you know, he's right up there with Facchetti. You know, he's the most important uh, character and person to have been, you know, for Inter ever to have. It's you know, he is that big of a person, and he's been an absolute success as a vice president. Since, you know, that's why they made him vice president for life.
I actually think
Sorry.
I actually think that if we're talking, I think I can only mention two fullbacks ahead of Zanetti. And that would be probably Cafu, and a player that is also almost similar to Zanetti because he's played across the entire team, and that would be Philip Lam.
For me, I mean, it depends. I mean, Paolo Maldini. I mean, the Paolo Maldini plays as a left back for most of his career. Maicon was a fantastic. I mean, there's so many throughout history. It's so hard to say. But I mean, if we divide into, I mean, Cafu and Roberto Carlos were fantastic. Yes, absolutely. Maldini was brilliant as well. But I mean, it was a different role back then. And then if you look at the 70s, you have, you know, you have also fullbacks that were fantastic back then. And I mean, one fullback that I remember back then is Berti Vogt for the West German side that won the European Championships in '72 and '70 and the World Cup in '74. They were absolutely amazing. They dominated world football. So I mean, it's difficult, but yeah, Philipp Lahm is definitely one of the best ever. I mean, he was so versatile. I mean, David Alaba now in Bayern Munich is also very versatile. So I mean, it depends on what you're talking about there, to be honest.
If you want to ask a question, just drop your question in the comment so that I can take it for Nima to answer. I see that my friend that I told you about, Jeffrey Oluwafemi, has joined. He's the big Carlo Cagnesi fan. He's a Milan fan as well. He's also very big on Serie A. He's joined in. So Jeff, raise up your hand. Let's know that you're here and that you can hear what we are saying. All right. So Nima, let's go on. So have you had any weird moments being on the beat?
Weird moments. Weird moments. Well, yeah, the entire situation is a bit weird when you when you are standing. I mean, after a derby game, for example, at Inter Milan, you're standing in the mixed zone at the San Siro, and everyone is pushing and shoving. Actually, there is one that's really funny. I found it absolutely hilarious. It was it's very tight space, the mixed zone in the San Siro, especially towards the end. I mean, in the beginning, closer to the dressing rooms, you have, the TV stations, they all have their own areas. And then after that, you have the general public or general media, pretty much. Everyone just coupled together. And it was funny, it was after Inter Napoli, and a Spanish journalist wanted to talk to Callejon and was pushing to get forward. And an Italian cameraman was filming at the same time, and someone behind him was pushing him, and it just turned into this ridiculous playground situation where the guy holding the camera almost dropped the camera in the middle of the interview, turns around and shouts at this guy pushing, saying, "Are you effing stupid? I'm doing a live interview with the camera. Stop
on
pushing."
live TV?
Yeah, it was absolutely bizarre. I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was hilarious. but that was very funny. That was very funny. I don't know which channel it was, but it was very, very funny. Very, very funny.
Do you think that the game that was played this season, the 3-2, do you think that game has brought back life into the derby?
I think the derby was in risk of becoming like the Rome derby, where it only, because these teams, Milan and Inter, you always used to fight for the titles, the Serie A, the titles in Europe, etc. But the past decade, with both of these clubs going through very difficult times, there was a risk where the derby became similar to that it was the only game that mattered all year. But now I think it made it. I think the past three derbies have been spectacular in a way that we haven't seen for the past decade, where it just mesmerizes you, and everything about it, from the fans and the choreographies in the stand to the atmosphere to the game being played. I think this game really had everything. It was, you had your heart in your throat for most of that game, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I agree. I think this is this could be yeah, I think this could be, it could be a return back.
To the glory days.
Yeah, to the glory days, absolutely.
I hope so. I would
Me
love to
too.
have another picture as close or as iconic as the Gattuso Materazzi picture,
Yeah.
which is probably the most iconic Milan derby picture you see anywhere.
Oh, you the Rui Costa one with the flares, where
With the flare,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
it's
yes, yes.
Materazzi and
And
Materazzi.
Rui Costa, yeah, and
Yeah,
Rui
they're
Costa.
standing like this. Yeah, yeah, that's the Champions League 2005 return leg quarterfinal that was abandoned after Cambiasso scored the equalizer in the return leg, and the referee didn't allow it. The German referee didn't allow it, and it was a very weird time that time in Italian football, and for Inter, who were all, there was so much arguing and infighting going, and the fans had it, so that was pretty much the last straw. That goal being disallowed was the straw, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it just everything went completely haywire from there.
Do you think that with what is happening at Inter and what is happening at Lazio, do you think that finally Serie A can be a potential 3-4 team horse race instead of the usual procession with Juventus?
No, I think with the only two teams that can threaten Juventus in Italy are Inter and Milan long term, with Napoli and Roma and Lazio potential outsiders. Absolutely, there's potential there. But if we're talking long term, it's only ever going to be Inter and Milan, and I think that's um, that's how it was in the 90s. You had a strong Inter, a strong Milan, a strong Juve, and then you had strong Roma and Lazio, and obviously Napoli were, early 90s Napoli were fantastic with Maradona, Alemão, Careca, but I think you might return to a situation where you have 6, 7 really strong teams, where they fight again for European glory, whether it's Europa League or Champions League. I think so. I think this new TV deal that Italy's signing, the Serie A is signing, is going to empower a lot of clubs, and I think it's going to force. And I think what's going to happen is a lot of foreign investors are going to come into Italy because of this TV deal. Because it's a lot of money at stake, it's better than it's ever been for the clubs, and the clubs stand to make a killing. So I think that is absolutely going to be, because I mean it's good for Italian football to have foreign owners. I think because when especially when they're Italian American, they know the culture already. People like Rocco Comiso, he's a self-made billionaire.
Yeah, for example.
He grew up in Bronx playing the accordion. There are pictures of him as 4 years old in the 1930s, 40s playing the accordion. It's like a Hollywood film, like a Bronx Tale pretty much. And he's a billionaire. He's a self-made billionaire, and he's been nothing but fantastic for Fiorentina in the Serie A, because the guy, he knows Italian culture because he has those roots. He was born in Calabria, but he grew up in America and has a very corporate professional attitude, and that is, I think, something that is needed in the Serie A. I mean, what Suning have done, I've been fantastic at Inter. I mean, they're one of the best. They're one of the biggest companies in the world. They're a Fortune 500 company. They immediately bought the rights to the Serie A, La Liga, Champions League in all of China when they bought Inter. So they're doing that. Their ownership of Inter is also a long-term strategy of them to monetize on sports in China and Asia. I think that's the kind of thing. Those are the kind of owners you need in Italian football, and I think those are the kind of owners you're going to get in Italian football more and more. And they're going to invest, and especially post-Corona, these people want to invest into infrastructure, into cities, because the stadiums are falling apart. And it's going to happen. It's totally going to happen, because before, the old guard could stand in their way, but now I don't think they can anymore, because the country's broke. And especially Italy was already in dire straits before the Corona crisis. Now we're talking, Italy is on the verge of becoming a poor country again. This is what they're discussing. So there's going to be, not just in football, but overall, there's going to be openings for investment from foreign, because Italy is a country that people love. Everyone loves to visit. It's an old country, people like the country. People like Italy. They like Italian food. They like Italian wine. They like Italian music. They like Italian culture. So Italy's always going to be fine, but they need to open up to foreign investment, and that's going to happen. And whether, you know, and that's the next interesting clash in Italian society to pay attention closely, and obviously with football in Italy always being a thermometer of where that society is in terms of politics. Look out to see what happens in Italian football, because it's going to be as an indicator on how the rest of the society acts.
Can you tell us more? It's good to see you being very positive, and you're speaking very positive about the direction of Italian football. I'm particularly worried about Milan, but you seem to be positive about Milan.
I am. I'm very positive about
I'm
Milan.
worried. I'm actually quite worried about Milan.
No, I'm not, because I think the problem was Yong Hong Lee. I mean, he was clearly not, you know, the whole Yong Hong Lee thing is just absurd. It's a bizarre situation. Who is this guy? Nobody knows him. He showed up with a bunch of borrowed money and defaulted on the loans, and now it's ended up in Elliott. And Elliott are, Elliott are a vulture capitalist hedge fund, that's for sure, but they're also interested in making back their money, and the only way they can do that is by raising the revenue of the club, and a way to do that is building a new stadium. Now, obviously, they're looking to find a stable sporting structure and something that's sustainable with young players to take the next step. And I honestly think that, you know, they've hit and miss a lot with Boban and Maldini but above all with Mirabelli and Fasone.
Yeah.
That was an absolute disaster, but an unmitigated disaster. Now I think that if they actually manage to bring in Ralf Rangnick in the sporting director coach and coach role, then I think that could really do them a world of good, because what Rangnick has done in Germany,
incredible job, man.
Absolutely fantastic, and that is something that falls within Milan's budget, but also is very typical of Milan to build something the same way that Berlusconi built something with an unknown manager named Arrigo Sacchi in the late 80s. Nobody knew who he was. He brought them all in, and he saw this generation of players that he decided to go with, and the rest is history. So I think, you know, I think that is the way to go for Milan, and I think that, and also whilst putting their investment in a new stadium together with Inter, which they are going to do, and that is going to help them so much.
Why can't they go their separate ways? Why must they share still?
The thing is, I think, you know, I think it's a clever way to do it, because first of all, it halves the costs. They would still own all their match day revenue. Each one of them would still own 100% of their own match day revenue. This is because if you look at the history of these two clubs, they really are cousins. They really are twin clubs. One came out of the other, and in the family in Italy, in Milan, half the family are Inter fans, the other half are Milan fans. So they're very related. There's a lot of passion and prestige involved, but they're also very closely linked. And I think this is kind of smart, because they'll be the only two city rivals that are so closely linked, same but different. You know what I mean? Like that builds its own mythology, and I think that's a very clever way to build on, and that's what they've both decided.
Well, it's good to hear, you know, you speak with so much confidence, you know, and positivity about the future of Italian football. It'd be nice. Can you shed more light on this TV deal that you're talking about? And what position would the Italian teams rank when you're discussing Italy, England, and Spain with respect to TV money?
I mean, it would take them to be, I mean, obviously the Premier League is still unthreatened when it comes to being the number one league. Spain is second, and I think what this deal allows Italy to do is to kind of come within reach of Spain and England. It's nowhere near where they need to be, but it helps them come within an arm's length distance of them. And because the deal expires with DAZN and Sky next year, I think. 2021, and this new deal that's being discussed is worth much more than that. It's much more modern, I haven't had a chance to look at all the details, but the details that have come out are very, very impressive, in terms of direct monetization from removing middlemen, pretty much, and allowing the clubs to earn more. It's a revolutionary. It's going to change if it goes through 100%. And we see all the deals. It's going to change Italian football for the better. There's going to be so much more money, and that in and of itself is going to draw foreign investors, just like it happened in the Premier League.
Well, you've spoken highly of Italian football, the direction. I'm worried about Milan. You said everything will be fine.
Yeah, I think so.
I will hold you to that. I will
Yeah,
hold you
do
to
that, do that.
I will hold you to that.
I think, you know, you have to go through purgatory to get to heaven, and Inter, you know, Inter went through their purgatory with in the past 10 years, and now they're on the cusp of going to heaven. Milan are going through purgatory right now, and then they'll get back there. I'm sure of it.
Well, let me quickly take one thing about the TV deal. If it can improve the color, the picture quality of Italian football, then it is a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I mean, all of that is going to be. I mean, it's going to be HD. It's going to be all of that stuff. You know, this is. I'm gonna. I mean, I've already. There's not that many details have come out about this, but the more it comes out, I'll definitely. I'll be following that closely, because I think this is a game changer for Italian football.
Okay, let me quickly take some of the questions we already have. Area Shedu says, when football comes back in Germany, do you think money from TV rights and viewership online will boost club finances, being that the fans would be able to go watch live games?
Well, yeah, that's something that they're talking about, aren't they? And especially given that bars, you know, you won't be able to go and see the games at bars either. So everyone will have to pay to see the games in Germany. And that's something, I mean, it's not going to make up for the lack of match day revenue, which is a very significant sum of revenue, or source of revenue for the clubs. But it's definitely going to ease the loss. We're talking about maybe 10% loss as opposed to 60% loss. That gap is massive, and that's going to help the German teams a lot. And I think that the fact that they're coming back is scaring a lot of leagues, the Premier League, La Liga, and Serie A, because that means that Germany could find themselves in an incredibly stronger financial position than any of these leagues. So we'll have to see. But I do think that, you know, for Germany, this wasn't, you know, coming back to Bundesliga wasn't the priority. The priority was to come back to normal and slowly open up society, with the Bundesliga being an aspect of that. So, and also it kind of shows how, you know, it's a great, you know, advertisement for Germany to see that, you know, 6 weeks closed down, but look, we're able to start to return back to normal. It would raise morale as well in society.
All right, let's take another question. Jeffrey is asking, how much credibility can we give to transfer rumors at this time?
That's an excellent question. I think right now, no one's doing any hardcore negotiation as such. There's a lot of talks taking place, and the reason why no hardcore negotiation is going on right now is because most of these leagues don't even know if they're going to be playing soon, and when and how, and what about contracts that expire on the 31st of June? What about European Cups? When is the transfer window? So all of this insecurity prevents clubs from engaging in any real, you know, gritty negotiation. There's a lot of talks going on, and so I think that it depends. I think a lot of clubs are, in terms of negotiation, I'd say that players whose contracts expire at the end of June and can leave on free transfers, these clubs, these negotiations are taking place. But then again, the caveat is we don't know if those contracts will be extended or what's going to happen. So again, I'd say I take a lot of things. I take a lot of rumors right now with a pinch of salt, but I mean, as soon as we know what is going on in terms of what will happen with the season, then I think will be in a much better place to determine whether or not things are true and
Okay,
how true they are.
okay. Jeffrey again is asking, the coach slash sports director dual role is not common in Italy. Wenger had some relative success in England, but in recent times, this is not common.
Mm.
How well do you think Ragnick would fare in this role, given the lack of patience in Italy?
That's an excellent question, and it's a gamble, no doubt about it. I mean, what he's done in Germany is fantastic, but that's Germany. Italy has a different culture and history, and the sporting director role in Italy has historically been the most important role to get right. If you get the sporting director role right, everything kind of falls into place. So, he doesn't know Italy, but we don't know what his strategy is. Is it? I mean, has football become so globalized enough that he can easily walk into that role and do what he did in Germany and tweak it a little bit and have success, or will he fail miserably and Milan be forced to bring in a sporting director to offload him in the more traditional sense? That remains to be seen. I personally think that the role of sporting director in Italy is such a diverse role to anywhere else that I think I can't imagine that they won't bring someone to at least help him in that role, because I don't think he'll be able to manage it. I honestly don't, unless he completely goes into the Sir Alex Ferguson mode and is like an overseer of everything, and he has assistants running the trainings and running all that stuff, and he can focus on the oversight role. We'll see, but it's definitely a very exciting prospect.
Okay, now let's go into your work with Di Marzio. Um, Di Marzio is one man that I respect a lot, and a lot of people who are signed on to this also. If you're looking for a transfer news, just go to generatordimarzio.com and you'll find it there.
Yeah,
And 90% of the time, it is
spot
spot on.
on.
So, how is it working with a character like Di Marzio? Different human with different approach to work, completely different style. How is it working with him?
He's I mean, he's the best reporter in the world, if you ask me. He's a model professional. He's so, I mean, his operation runs like a well-oiled machine. I mean, everything he does, everyone working around him, everyone in the background, in the behind the curtains, so to speak, everyone knows what they're doing, and it's such a well-oiled machinery, and he's so good at what he's doing, what he does, and for him, it's always been so important to be right rather than first. He'd rather be right than be first, even if that means missing on transfers. Like, for example, the Cristiano Ronaldo one to Juventus. He didn't report that at all. And when that was made official, he complimented all the colleagues. And the reason for that is because he doesn't want to. He didn't find the confirmations he needed to make that, to go out with that deal, and therefore he didn't want to risk his reputation. And that's a very impressive way of looking at it, and because he doesn't want to gamble. He'd rather be right than to be first and wrong. And that's what I'd say sets him apart from everyone else. Most people hear something and they don't verify it, or verify it poorly and then go with it, and then they're wrong. He doesn't do that. He doesn't, until he's absolutely certain of something, he does not report it. It's as simple as that.
But how do you guys do it?
No, I mean,
How do you do it?
I'm not there anymore. So
no, I'm saying as in when you were there, what was like for instance, the Jose Mourinho transfer to moving to Manchester United. I remember Di Marzio actually did a video and said he's telling us it's done. And I remember in my group, the Soccer Pop, some of the members are here. At a point, one of our members, Victor SP, was saying, hey, is Di Marzio going to be wrong this time? Because nothing seems to be happening. And Di Marzio, that video kept playing. He kept playing that video. Like, look, you can take it to the bank. He comes tonight. Where does he get that confidence?
Because, as I said, he doesn't do things unless he's certain of them. I mean, when he says something is done, then he has confirmation that it is done. It's not just someone's agent saying something. It's at least 4 or 5 different sources, or whatever, how many sources, saying that it's done. So because he has an incredible network, and he's a lovely guy, and people want to work with him.
Okay, Jeff is asking another question. He's very happy that you have said he's asked excellent questions so far. He sees himself as a Serie A aficionado as well. So he says, have you heard a lot of stories? Okay, he said, I have heard a lot of stories about agents and journalists at Atta Hotel in Milan on transfer deadline days. Have you ever been there on deadline day, or can you help describe what the atmosphere looks like on transfer deadline day?
It's not at that hotel anymore, but it used to be. It's mad. It's a fun situation. I've been there once for a long time ago, but it's fun. It's different. A lot of things are happening. I mean, it's like, as soon as a transfer is completed, they basically call it out, and people run to see what it is. Everyone is there. All the agents are there. All the clubs are there. Everyone is there. Representatives from each. You have all the media there. Everyone's talking. You hear conversations. You try to verify. It's very fun. It all happens very fast paced, and it's entertainment at the end of the day, to be honest with you.
Well, how come Italy still does it this way?
Entertainment.
Like a stock market type
Yeah.
setup. Why? Unlike what happens in England and the other parts of Europe.
Well, because it's good TV. I mean, it's really entertaining. If anything, it's really, really entertaining. I mean, think about it. You have, things happening fast-paced, live on air. It's nice to watch. I'm surprised more people don't do it that way. It's incredibly entertaining, and people want to follow it. It's exciting. It's full of adrenaline. It happens all the time. It's really, really exciting. It's the same reason you have, you have people. It's the same reason you have, live breaking news is such a good industry. I mean, this isn't, at least this is something positive, and not, war and hunger and shit like that. This is something fun. People like deadline day. It happens, whilst you're on air, it happens as it's being reported, and that's always going to be exciting. So I think it's that, and it is exciting, because then you have some people, you have for example, agents who are angry because, for example, when Mino Raiola was furious because the internet wasn't working one day, and one of his transfers couldn't be completed. It's good TV. I'm sorry, it's must-see TV. It's football. It's trash TV for football, but it's very, very fun.
All right, let's start. Kuste Faburu has joined us. Kuste, please raise up your hand. Let's know that you can hear us. Abdulhamid, please raise your hand. Let's know you can hear us. Thank you for joining us. Adebayo Ademola, thanks for joining. Please raise your hand. Let's know that you can hear us, as well as Tunde Tella. All right, let's go to another question. This is from Tade Adekunle. He says, what fond memories do you have of African players that are featured in the Serie A?
African players, I mean, George Weah is one that springs to mind. Samuel Eto'o as an Interista, I mean, he's probably, I mean, I subscribe to those who think there's a real argument to be made that Samuel Eto'o is maybe the best African player of all time. I think he was absolutely phenomenal. I've never seen any. I mean, the way it was wow. I mean, I really don't have anything to say other than that. He was absolutely fantastic. There's obviously Oba Martins. I mean, he was quite a character. There's a lot of African players who, I mean, Koulibaly has been, in recent years, one of the best central defenders I've seen in my life. He's been absolutely fantastic.
That's very high praise.
No, he is. I mean, that
very
season.
High praise.
Yeah, that season. I mean, especially that season for Napoli when they finished second behind Juventus on 96 points, where that was, I mean, he was unplayable. Absolutely. I mean, he was so good. He was the perfect modern central defender in that season. I think he's regressed a little bit since that, but that season was
Mm.
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Mm. Do you think he will stay at Napoli?
I think it's time for that. I think it's time to move on. I don't think he'll stay in Italy.
Mm.
I think he'll probably leave for PSG or a Premier League club.
Mm.
That's where I put my money. I think his time at Italy has come to an end. And I don't think he would want to play for another Serie A team, given the love that he's had
Mm.
in, the relationship he has with the club and its fans, and the way that they've, all rallied behind him, and the way that he's taken them on board. I don't think he would want to play for another Italian team. I honestly don't.
Okay, let's take some more questions. Okay, Boyo is asking. Um, some of that question just seemed to slip under the radar. Okay, she's saying she wants to know: do you think the EPL will be cancelled and will Liverpool be crowned the eventual champions? That's the biggest question in the world
Yeah,
today.
that it really is. It's one of those big. It's the biggest question in English football right now in part of the world. And I think that, to me, I honestly think they're 25 points ahead. Okay, they have beaten every single team in that league. There's no discussion that they're the best team in the Premier League in England. There's really no discussion of that. I don't think anyone, not even the most bitter Manchester United and Chelsea fans, could even argue with that. No, but you can't argue with that. I mean, it's just facts. It's just that simple. So, and so I think what will happen, I think they will want to play the league and finish it. And there's talks of playing in the Midlands, all of the teams
Yeah.
playing to remove traveling, to quarter all the teams in the middle of the country to play to finish the season off. And I think that would be the best thing to do if it's possible, of course, health permitting. And I think that Liverpool will win. I don't think you can take the title away from them. I really don't think. I mean, if it was within 5 points, that's one thing. But it's 25 points. They have beaten every single team, home and away. They've not lost a game. I mean, they've drawn like once or twice. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's an absolute clean sweep.
But what does it do? I have a problem with, if you want to get football back, do what the Germans are doing. Let's play behind closed doors and what have you. But that whole idea of having to go to one place and play it all, what does that do to the integrity of the competition? Now, note that you have a few teams who are struggling, who are fighting against relegation, Aston Villa being one. And you do know when it's squeaky bum time, that is when some of these teams find that extra energy, especially playing at home, to get some results that are surprising. Now you take that element out of those teams and take them to a neutral location. I think that doesn't work for me.
No, but at the same time, that element that you're talking about, that comes from the fans. And if you're going to play the games behind closed doors, it doesn't really matter where you play them.
Okay.
A stadium is a stadium, and all the Premier League stadiums are of this. I mean, in terms of the quality of the pitch and all that, it's all the same. So I think that is already. I mean, that's already been compromised. If you want to finish this season, and if you can finish it safely, then it has to be on these terms. You can't have groups of people traveling north, south, east, west in the middle of a pandemic. It's just not doable. You have to have everyone in a safe space and a safe place and have them play with as little movement as possible. If you want to finish the season, because you can't have open doors. You have to have this. You have to have it closed. It's just one of those things. It's choosing the lesser of two evils at this point. And if you want to play the season, that's the only way you can go about it.
Let's take some more questions. Let's hold on one second. Henry Ashid is asking, do you support any club outside the Italian league?
Yes, I support Inter and I support IFK Gothenburg, my hometown club. Growing up, in the 90s, in the World Cup '94 when Sweden
Yeah,
finished
there are a
when,
few players there.
when Sweden finished third, we had, after Milan and Barcelona, we had the most national team players in the World Cup. And we won the UEFA Cup, as it was called, in '82 and '87. We were in the quarterfinal of the Champions League in '94, '95, '94, and I mean, we beat Milan, this magical Milan. We beat Barcelona, we beat United, we beat everyone. We were a European powerhouse. I mean, we were, the year that Ajax won the Champions League, we were one of the outsiders to win the Champions League with a group of semi-professional players. So, you know, those two are my teams. But then again, those are teams I support. And in an international level, it's Italy and Iran that I support internationally. But other than that, I don't really support teams. I have teams that I'm kind of, you know, that I have that I'm weak towards, and, you know, depending on whatever. But no, it's those are the teams I support.
The AFK Gothenburg team you're talking about was the one under Sven?
82 was Sven Goran Eriksson in
Yeah.
1982. Yes, he won the treble with them. He won the Swedish Cup, the Swedish League, and the UEFA Cup, and then he left. So in '87 we didn't. Sven was already in Europe. I think he was in Italy. I think in '87 he was in Rome or at Roma or Fiorentina. I can't remember.
Benfica? Who's that Benfica?
He was at Benfica as well. Yes,
Yeah.
but So yeah.
All right, another question Tada Adekunle is asking. Milan are known for employing former players of the team. Do you think there is a need to change that approach, considering the fact that it hasn't worked?
I think what hasn't worked at Milan has been an overall thing. It's not just the fact that they've brought in Maldini and Boban and that hasn't worked. I think the problem has been that having Gazidis there and then having Boban and Maldini there, who are old Milan and they work in their way, and then you have someone new come in. You know, if it's going to work, you're gonna need someone. It has to be like a clear leadership from the top down. That hasn't happened at Milan. At Inter, that was very clear. Suning came in. They decided, they got rid of Tohir pretty quickly, gave him a peripheral role, and then they took over everything, monitoring everything of the club. And then Zanetti was integrated in that, you know, in that way. With Milan, it was basically, here's, you know, Elliot came. They brought in Maldini and Boban, and then everyone had to find, and Gazidis, and then they all had to find their own places. That won't work, especially with a club that used to, you know, Berlusconi's Milan, the old Milan, used to work in a very specific way, and Boban and Maldini are big representatives of that. So I think the issue is that it hasn't worked overall at Milan. I think right now what Milan should do is what there seems that they intend to do, and that is a new approach. Bring in someone like Rangnick and set everything there, and then set the structure there, and then bring in people based on that structure if they fit the structure. Not bring in people and then create a structure. No, create the structure first, then bring in people that suit that structure.
Do you think that Inter fans don't give enough credit to the appointment of Pepe Marotta?
Absolutely. I think Beppe Marotta is the best thing to have happened to Inter ever. The Suning's appointment and Suning buying the club and Beppe Marotta becoming the club CEO are probably, I would honestly say, are as important historically when looking back as winning the treble. Because you will never see Inter finally have stable ownership, and they have a man at the top that is calm, cool, collected, and knows how to handle a very unstable environment, and he's done it absolutely brilliantly. I think he's barely made a mistake, which at Inter is incredibly impressive.
What's your take on Inter's flurry of Premier League signings in January? From Eriksen to Young to Victor Moses, and of course, Lukaku in the summer and all that. What's your take on their flurry of signings from the Premier League?
I mean, it's quite evident that the reason why these players were bought is because Antonio Conte wants intensity, and the Premier League is a high intensity league. So that's what that is. And I mean, players like Victor Moses. I mean, Victor Moses was never had a better moment in his career than when he played under Antonio Conte at Chelsea. So I think that is part of the reason, and he wants high intensity and players that, the training under Antonio Conte is mad. I mean, he runs these players into the ground on a daily basis, and Premier League players are better prepared for that. So I think that's the only reason. There's not much. There's not anything else beyond that. I mean, he wants high intensity players that fit the system, and that's why they went after those players. But let's remember that Inter went after Stefano Sensi and Nicolo Barella as well, and these are modern Italian players. These are modern Italian players that also suit the kind of football that he wants to play. So I think football is moving into that kind of. I think Italian football is kind of adapting to and creating their own version of modern football, if you know what I mean.
I particularly like Stefano Sensi. If not for the injuries this season, he would have been one of my first names on the ballot for player of the season.
Absolutely,
absolutely fantastic.
It was unplayable. I think his problem. I think the fact that he got this break in the middle of the season was a godsend. It was a blessing in disguise for him because, he gave his body a chance to recover from this high level dose of training, and also it allowed Conte and the medics to understand better how his body works.
Yeah.
And to also give it, because Conte isn't, people make, yes, he's a hammer and he's a hard ass and he's very disciplined and all that, and he wants to run, but he's not stupid. Yes, he runs the players a lot and he wants them running and he wants them very fit, but he also wants them to be healthy. And he's a very scientific in his approach. So, he won't just run Stefano Sensi into the ground and make him run laps like a child. That's not what it's about. He wants to get the best out of his players, and he specifically asked for Stefano Sensi. So this is a player that he believes in a lot, and he wants to get the best out of him, and he will. I think that it's just about finding the right level and manner of training for him so that he doesn't get as injured as often as he has. That's what it's about. And I think this break has allowed him to recover, and they'll be able to give him an individual training regime so that he doesn't become as injured.
Okay, so Tule Teller is asking, do you think Kessie is still improving as a player for Milan? What is his best position, defensive midfield or as a box-to-box midfielder?
I'd say box-to-box because the guy doesn't stop running and he never gets tired. And I really liked him at Atalanta when he made these deep runs from deep into the penalty area and scored quite a few goals. So I'd like to see him as a box-to-box player. I think he has a role to play. I absolutely do think he has a role to play. I don't know if it will be at Milan. I mean, it depends on who the next coach is and what they want. But I think the criticism against Kessie has been, from Milan fans, has been a little bit unfair. I can't see, if he hasn't suited and be able to get the best out of him, it's because Milan have been in complete shambles as well. I think it's both of those things can be true at the same time.
Atalanta, a team that are, very, very close to my heart. I like them. I like the way they play. I support Manchester United too, but I don't support any other team. But Atalanta are a team that I really like. Jeffrey's asking, thoughts on Berlusconi and Galliani at Monza? Might be a stretch, but do you think they can recreate what they did with Milan in the 80s?
No, they won't ever be able to recreate that. but what they're doing is, and it's quite clear what they're doing is, it's basically they're trying to bring Monza back into the Serie A and make them into a mid-table team and show that they still got it. But there's no way they'll be able to compete for a Scudetto or something like that with Monza. I mean, the amount of money that is needed, Berlusconi doesn't have. He has the contacts, and Galliani has the contacts and ability to bring them back to the Serie A and make them maybe a top 10 team. That they do. But to win titles again, maybe a Coppa Italia, but not more than that.
All right. Adebayo Ademola is asking, there have been rumors of Marcelo moving to Juventus. Do you think he will move, considering that his position is no more guaranteed at Madrid with the form of Mendy?
I think that could happen. I honestly do. I honestly think that could happen. Not because um, I think it could happen because Juventus seem to be offloading Alexandro. He seems to be leaving. There is talk of Juventus wanting Emerson Palmieri from Chelsea, and obviously Antonio Conte wants him back with him at Inter as well. So I think Marcelo would be a very typical. This is a new Juventus. They're kind of going into the whole big name Galactical thing, and Marcelo would be a perfect signing there. It's similar how when they got Dani Alves or Cristiano Ronaldo and Khedira and all these. They Matuidi. They're going after big names now. They're not going after young promising players. They're going after big names. And Marcelo, I think would be, with Sarri, I think he would be fantastic because I think he still has a role to play.
There's something about the water in Juventus and players at the peak of their career, at those heading into the mid-30s, that it seems when they go to Juventus, their careers are rejuvenated. Evra is an example. I think Fernando Llorente. There must be something in the water in Juventus that is making that happen.
Well, I mean, if we want to be evil, we'll say that it's not just something. It's not just something in the water. There's something being injected into them, as we have seen in the doping charges against Juventus in the mid-90s, which they were convicted for. But then,
you just have to go there. You just have to.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, no. But seriously speaking, I don't think it's something in the water. I think it's got to do with the fact that Juve are a very, Juve are a very stable club. And I think when they bring in players that have won, because at Juve, winning is the only thing that matters. And when they bring players like Evra, Dani Alves, who are used to winning, they know that the level, the attitude in the dressing room is going to be a much more professional attitude, because these are players that have won and know what it takes to win, and everyone else, adapts to that mentality. Same with Cristiano Ronaldo, Matuidi, and Khedira. I mean, these are players that have won everything, and Juventus want that professionality, so that's why they're going after those players.
Boyo says that she likes your assessment of Antonio Conte. He's a manager that she really likes. She also supports Chelsea. Jeffrey is asking again that, speaking about Gothenburg, do you have any fond memories of Nigeria's Peter EJ when he played there?
Oof. Yeah, I remember that. That was quite the scandal, wasn't it? I mean, the way, because he scored a lot of goals for Malmö FF,
that's Zlatan's club.
Yeah, exactly. They're big rivals of IFK, and he left them under on a free transfer which was very, it was a big, and the way that my team Gothenburg bought him ended up with people at the club going to prison because they because they violated the Swedish tax law, and it later turned out into the former the sporting director and the former the person in charge of finances at the club, they were convicted of tax crimes, and Peter Ije was sold quickly to a Danish side. So no, that unfortunately did not end as well as it could have. But that wasn't Peter Ije's fault. That was the way that the people running the club at the time were not good at their jobs.
Well, unfortunately, they have so much of a career with the national team.
Yeah.
Jeffrey is asking again, Lautaro to Barcelona has been a consistent rumor for a while now. Do you see this transfer possibly happening? If yes, what time frame? And also, let me add to that, and also what kind of deal structure do you see?
I didn't hear what deal it was. It broke up.
Lautaro Martinez to Barcelona has been a consistent rumor for a while now. Do you see this? Yes. What time frame? And I'm adding what kind of deal structure?
It's quite clear, but Suning will not let Lautaro Martinez go unless they get paid what they want and what they're happy with. It's the same thing when Manchester United wanted to buy Ivan Perisic and Inter said
Yeah.
yes, but only for 50 million euros, not a penny less. And they were quite happy with letting him stay at the club and playing him and giving him a contract extension and then loaning him to Bayern Munich over not giving him to
Yeah.
Man United. That's how they operate. It's their way or the highway. It's as simple as that. If Barcelona want Lautaro Martinez, they will have to make Inter happy. And how do they make Inter happy? Well, it's one of two ways. Either pay the 111 million release fee clause, or 90 million euros and one or two players that Inter are happy with, such as Arturo Vidal. That is the only way that Inter will allow him to leave. Suning don't mess around. They don't. It's their way or the highway. They don't. They never lose face. They are absolutely. They're for them it's about maintaining integrity. And credibility. So no, it's
And
not.
credibility.
Yeah, they
That's
won't.
interesting.
I think that if he were to leave, it will only be on Suning's terms, and Suning's terms are 111 million euros, and or 90 million plus 2 players that Inter want. It's that simple.
I had John Print, a football agent, on the show a few weeks ago, and we had a conversation about the potential look of transfers and the window going forward. He's of the opinion that we would have a lot more structured deals, maybe loans,
Yeah, agreed.
swaps, and what have you. Do you agree with that?
Agree 100%. I think the cash. I mean, it all depends on what happens. Will the season be played, resumed, and finished or not? If it is, then they'll have more money to use. But I still think that we're going into a situation where it's going to be a lot of loans, with swaps, free transfers, etc. Yeah, absolutely.
Or wait. Let's do this. In the years of covering Serie A on one side and football generally, who's the most talented player you've seen?
Ever.
Yeah, that you've ever seen. That this guy is the most talented I've seen.
I mean, the most talented. I mean, for me, I mean, it depends. I mean, watching Roberto Baggio and Francesco Totti play football is almost a religious experience. I never saw Maradona live, but I did see Baggio, Vea. I saw Maldini play. I mean, Messi. Cristiano Ronaldo. All these, but so I mean, but Francesco Totti, some of the stuff he did at the San Siro that I saw live was, I mean, it gave me goosebumps. And I'm not a Roma fan, but I remember a game. I think it was Rudi Garcia's first season in charge of Roma and Mazzarri's first season at Inter. Inter had started well, Roma had started well. They were playing.
Yeah, Roma started very well.
They were going to play against each other at the San Siro, and Roma won that game after 2 goals from Totti. But one of the things he did, the thing that stayed with me, was a magical performance by him that game. I mean, it was vintage Totti. But the thing he did that I never forget was when Inter have a corner, the ball is headed to him. The ball is headed away on the edge of Roma's penalty area. Totti takes it down on his lap, and in one movement turns around. And Alvaro Pereira wants to screen him and tackle him. Totti looks away, and in one pass puts the ball between his legs and passes and nutmegs him through for a counter-attack that Roma win a penalty and score on. It was mad. I was like, what did I just witness? What did I just? I mean, it was out of this world what he did. It was wow. No, it was Totti when he was at his best is one of the most fantastic players I've ever seen.
Okay, another transfer question. Is Thomas Partey coming to Arsenal, please? That's how I should do.
No, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, you have to remember Thomas Partey. He's very closely tied to Atletico Madrid as well.
Yeah.
I don't think Simeone wants to let him leave. I think he's such an important part of that club. So I don't know. Anything can happen, but it's, to me, that's a deal that could, it's a big money deal, and I don't see how Atletico Madrid will let him go for anything less than they're happy with. And also, I think they want to keep him. I think Simeone really, really rates him.
Yeah, it's interesting the progress he has made at Atletico from a beat part player when they had Gabi and
So
Koke hankering the
yeah,
midfield,
yeah.
then Saul came along. But it's interesting to see how he's building his time and gotten into the team, steadied himself, and he's really, really playing out of his skin now. It's hard to mention 10 midfielders in this position without calling Thomas Partey. It's that's how good he's been, and he's been very, very good this season. Adebayo Ademola is asking, between Zidane and Seedorf, who's your pick?
As a player,
Yeah.
Zidane.
No, of course, obviously not as managers.
No, in both of those instances, it's a no-brainer. It's Zidane. Zidane, come on.
Zidane, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
I think one thing that sets Zidane apart from every other player is Zidane's balance. I think
absolutely. It's second to none.
It's second to none. It's different.
Like a ballerina, isn't it? I mean, he's so big, and I agree with that. The balance. His balance is out of this world. I think that is his most important. That's his biggest strength. That's his most strongest as a player. The ability, because he was a big, bulky player, strong. He danced on the pitch. I mean, how did he do those things? He looked like a ballerina with the ball at times. It was gorgeous.
When we talk about players, like, it's a shame what football is becoming when everything is all about stats these days.
Absolutely.
It's a shame because I get quite infuriated on social media when I see people compare Zidane with just any kind of midfielder because the guy scored more goals or has more assists.
No.
Zidane was a joy. Just watch Zidane.
Yeah, just
watch
the game. Just watch the game. It's nonsense. I mean, this every 11-year-old comes armed with a bunch of stats and thinks he knows football. I mean, no, it's not serious. Let's be serious.
And my belief, my take is this: I put that blame completely on the footsteps of the Americans.
No, I don't know. I put that on the. I know they started the stats fetish, but it's not. This is more. Young. It's more of a young people trying to prove themselves by regurgitating things that they can scientifically prove without even understanding what those stats begin with. It's nonsense.
All right, Kuste, I see your question, but I don't understand it. He's asking.
No, I know what he means. He means like a YouTube link or something. Yeah, I'll put it up later. I don't have it right now, but I'll put it up. I'll share it later.
All right. Says we'll share it. Lamid is asking. Why is Paul Pogba in Juventus? Okay, why is Paul Pogba in Juventus different from Pogba at Man United? That's a typical United question.
It's a very simple answer to that, and that's because at Juventus he had Arturo Vidal, Claudio Marchisio, and Andrea Pirlo who carried him.
He had protection.
He was completely protected by them. and at Man United and in the French national or at Man United, he has to be the main guy.
Yeah.
And he's not been able to fill that role. It's that simple. He's not even been able to do that in the French national team either. He's also protected there. So by other world-class players. So I think, with Pogba, we have to remember that, maybe the hype has that is might be his Achilles, might be why people judge him. And it's when a player like that is hyped, let's remember 100 million euros Man United pay for him. He's not a 100 million euro player. You will never get me to say that. Never, because
gracias for that.
No, but he's not, and it's just that simple. Because he's a great player, no doubt about that. but he's not a Ballon d'Or 100 million euro player. He's not, and his career shows that he's not.
Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
You're
I'm
welcome.
I'm happy to finally hear somebody say that. Um, Nima, you're not a Liverpool. You don't like
No,
Liverpool,
no,
do
no, no.
you?
I'm not a Liverpool fan. I
Do
have
you like Liverpool?
I grew up in the 80s, okay? And Liverpool in the 80s with John Barnes, Peter Beardsley, Ian Rush, that they were a dynasty, and John Barnes was a childhood hero of mine. So I didn't support Liverpool, but I was weak to them when I was growing up. I don't support any team in the Premiership.
Okay,
Or,
because Eri I said was asking which Premiership club do you like apart from
I
Liverpool?
like West Ham a lot.
You like West Ham,
I like West Ham a lot because of their history. I like Liverpool
even
because
under David Moyes.
no, God no. I don't want I want him and the Davids. I want all the Davids
All the
out of
Davids
West.
to leave West
I
Ham.
want all the Davids out of West Ham. Every single David. It's a David ban at the club, if you ask me. No more Davids.
I never had one is asking, do you think Varane is underrated, rightly rated, or overrated?
I love Rafael Varane. I think he's a fantastic center half. I'd say maybe a little bit underrated,
Yeah, I think
actually.
so too. I
A
think he's
little bit,
underrated.
not much, but a little bit underrated. I mean, people, I think Van Dijk is fantastic, but I mean, the way they build him up compared to someone like Varane, I mean, Varane is not that far off, if you ask me.
Start that conversation. Brio is making a comment on Zidane. Said, even if I don't watch football, Zidane can do no wrong. Kuste just called me a dull host because I said I didn't understand this question.
Yeah.
Jeffrey's asking, aside Koulibaly and Alan, and possibly Mertens, well, Mertens would leave because his contract expires. Do you think any other stars will leave Napoli at the end of the season? And what do you think Aurelio and Guttoli's market strategy will be after that?
I think that's a great question, actually. I think we're going to see a lot of things happen at Napoli. I think Milik will be sacrificed because I think they're basically rebuilding, and they're rebuilding rather cleverly. And Napoli have, under De Laurentiis, have been excellent in finding young players and good players that they can build upon. I mean, like Lavezzi, Cavani to a certain extent, Hamšík, Alan, Koulibaly. I could go on for days about that. So I think Alan, Koulibaly, and Milik will leave. And also, I hope not, but Lozano, I think, will leave as well because it seems that he's not gelling well at that club.
Well, yeah, I don't think so too. Kusta is asking, do you think football, as with other physical games, is getting too protected, too technically flimsy, with further touches and fingertip offside calls really spoiling the fun?
I mean, I think that the physical aspect of the game is the modern game is something that's been deeply neglected. Tackling as an art form has been lost a little bit because of the very intentional decision of the footballing bodies to play a technical game. I think I mean, in the 80s and 90s, when Maradona and these players used to get assaulted, that was that was wrong. But but then again, this kind of thing where you can't even tackle anymore is I want a balance between that. And as for the VAR goes, if it's off, if you can prove with 99.99% accuracy that it's offside, it's offside. Almost right is still wrong. So and off, it's for me,
let me tweet that quote.
yeah, okay.
Almost right is still wrong.
Yeah, I mean that is if whether it's close or not. If something is close, it's 1 meter offside or 1 millimeter offside, it's still offside. But the issue is, can you get that? Can you show that? And how high an accuracy you can have? And I think that the VAR is good. It's here to stay. I think we just need to see out these tiny little before we find the perfect way to use it. But I absolutely think that the technology should be used. But so I look at it differently.
back to one thing: consistency.
Exactly. It's all about consistency.
I think the referees, there needs to be a balance given today, even after being checked on VAR, and then the following day, you see the same identical scenario playing out in another game, and still, a call is not given. So that's my problem
I
with
agree.
VAR.
I agree. It's the consistency that's lacking from league to league. I think one way to do it would be to one of the things I want to see is from American sports, and that is in ice hockey, for example, when they challenge, when something is being challenged,
Yeah.
it's looked upon and decided upon in another venue, far away from the stadium, by people in there who can determine was it a sending off, was it an offside, what is it a penalty, and they just tell the referee this is a penalty, this isn't a penalty. Then you take away that from someone at the stadium who's running, whose pulse is high, he's got 80,000 people shouting at him, he's got teams. Take it out of the referee's hands, put it far, far, far away into a war room like the NHL does, where they have 3 or 4 people looking at it and they make the decision if it's a penalty, if it's an offside. Take it out of the official's hands. Let the official decide what he's there to decide. Is it a free kick? Is it a yellow card? All that stuff. But remove that from him and put it far away where someone in a calm environment can look at it. And also transparency. How was the decision made? Release the statements that
Exactly.
which law was used, why was it used, what was the interpretation, etc., etc.
Kusa is saying that, but that also keeps bringing those 3-minute breaks into the game. Goal line
No, I
tech
don't
is
think
welcome,
so.
but this offside calls, and then there's the rule of the final call being still left to the referee. Why
Yeah, but
bother?
I want to, as I said, I want to remove the final call from the referee. I want it to be in a, I want it to be in a room far, far away, in a war room, where they just look at it themselves and then they tell him this was offside, this wasn't offside, this is a penalty, this isn't a penalty. I don't want it to have a 3-minute break and then the referee has to go look at it. No, I want it to be a situation where the 3-minute break is all that is needed for the decision to be made. That's simple.
Okay, Nima, let's try and round up. If you have any questions, let me know. I would like to also have your all-time Inter 11s, since you support Inter,
Oof.
and you would have to mention your manager as well.
Yeah.
Your author. I always take a swipe at Inter at Nerazzurri's by saying that Jose Mourinho is the greatest manager in Inter history, and they all come with their fists trying to get me back and tell me no, it's an Herrera that I
Well,
shouldn't even go there.
if you look at what Helenio Herrera did, in modern football, it's 2 different games. I mean, the Grande Inter of the 60s under Helenio Herrera, they changed football. They really changed the course of the game in terms of impact. But Mourinho won the treble. That's never been done before. Mourinho won the treble. He won the first Italian team to win a domestic and continental treble was Jose Mourinho at Inter. And so for me, it's one of those two. I wasn't alive in 1963, so I don't know. For me, it's emotional. So I'll just go with Mourinho. But I think that you can't. It depends on when you were born. So I think I can't say one is wrong and one is right. It's one of those two. And then you also have to mention Giovanni Trapattoni's Inter dei Record, the record-breaking Inter of 88 and 89 under Trapattoni, where which made which made a generation of people Inter fans like myself, with Matteus, Breme, Zenga,
Bremen,
Bergomi,
Klinsmann.
Ferri.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
team.
So all these they barely lost a game and they dethroned Maradona's, that Milan and that Napoli with Maradona, and won the league in record-breaking fashion. So that's also a contender. And Trapattoni is one of the most decorated coach in Italian football, Italian coach in the game, together with Lippi. So let's not forget about that. But I mean, but I still think that for me, it's Mourinho more because of the way he did it. and also it's more from like a personal emotional point of view. But I don't think you can say much between the three of them. It's one of those three. In goal, Walter Zenga, without a doubt. Zenga always. Right back, Maicon.
Interesting.
Central defenders, Armando Picchi, the captain of La Grande Inter, and Walter Samuel.
The wall.
The wall, Il Muro. Then left back, you have to have Facchetti. I mean, there's no discussion there. Then you have midfield of Matteos and Cambiasso in holding. I'll play a 4-2-3-1, and then I'll have Matteos and Cambiasso there. I'd have on left wing, I'd have Samueletto. On right wing, I'd have. This is difficult. No, actually, I'll play a 4-3-1-2. I'll do that.
Okay.
It's easier. 4-3-1-2. Cambiasso, Matteos, and Javier Zanetti in the midfield.
Okay.
Then in up front, it'll be Mazzola and Samueletto. And the number 10 role, I'd probably have to go with just off the top of my head now. People are probably going to criticize me, but no, I'll probably go with actually, you know what? I'll put Matteos. I'll put Matteos in the number 10 role, and then I'll play a midfield of Cambiasso, Juan Sebastian Veron, and
Veron?
Yeah, Veron. Veron was Juan Veron. Yeah. Oh.
Did his best work at Lazio.
Yeah, but he was very good at Inter. I mean, he was
that's a huge surprise.
Yeah, no, it was Zanetti, Cambiasso, and Veron, the Argentinian trio, and then Lothar Matthäus in the number 10 role, and Mazzola and Eto'o up front. I'll go with that.
So the man that the stadium is named after doesn't make your team.
Yeah, but it's 1930s. It's as I said, it's impossible to compare these periods.
Okay,
I mean,
that's fair.
1930s is something. It's barely the same game as in 1960s, and that's not even the same game to now in 90s.
No,
so you have to go with them. But no, I'll go with those three because it's the Argentinian trio in midfield: Cambiasso, Zanetti, and Veron, and they played excellently together. So I've seen them play together. That's why I want to go with those three.
Having Veron is shocking for me, but it's your team.
Veron was good at Inter.
So no Wesley Sneijder, despite his role in the treble?
No, I can't because Matthäus was other level.
Wow.
No, I didn't put Ronaldo into this team because Ronaldo did more. I mean, for me, he was played at Inter for 5 years, but he was injured 3 of those years.
Yeah.
So for me, his impact at Inter is just one season.
Limited to the UEFA Cup win.
That's it.
Yeah, limited to the UEFA Cup win. He's asking. Jeff just asked that he missed portions of this, but did you put El Fenomeno in your team? No, he didn't put El Fenomeno in his team. Let's round up. So you give me your all-time 11. So John was saying that he thinks we're going to have a mid transfer window. Depending on when the season starts, I have the window open till February. You agree with that as well?
No, I don't think it'll be open to February. I think it depends. I mean, I think what they will do, there needs to be a break between when this season ends and when the next one starts. And I think they will have to squeeze in a transfer window probably in July. I think it'll have to start in July because you can't extend the contracts. I think no matter what happens, it will have to start in July.
So what you're saying now is players like Willian, who their contracts expire on June 30, will be able to move?
They will have to.
Whether the season is completed or not?
Yeah, they'll move, but I don't think they'll be allowed to play. I think
that's a loss. That's a loss on both sides.
Yeah, it is. But that's FIFA for you and UEFA for you. So, they haven't negotiated this yet. But based on today, the 7th of May, what they've said is that they're not going to allow contracts to be extended past June 30. And if teams play, they won't. If clubs sign new players, they won't be able to play them until next season. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But maybe that's the lesser of two evils. I don't know.
Okay, final question. What is the strangest transfer news that you've had to cover?
Strangest. The silliest I think I've ever heard was the silliest one. I think is probably what turned out to be true. Actually,
Which one?
the one where Inter this absurd deal that saw Antonio Cassano leave Inter in exchange for Belfodil and Silvestre and all these crap players, and it was.
Ambiambani.
Yeah, it was weird. That was such a weird. That was so. There was no logic to that, and they were arguing that there was logic because they needed to save money, and it was like, what? No, it was just weird. That was weird.
I forgot to ask a question, so that will be the last question from Boyo. She had asked me earlier. I skipped it. Apologies, Boyo. What are your thoughts on the UCL, that's the Champions League? Do you think it will be cancelled, or do you think the final will be played?
I think they're going to be play. They're going to play it. I think I think what they're looking. The UEFA have told everyone, all the leagues, that they need a decision by a certain date in May. After that, they will look at structures and venues to finish the European Cups, including the Europa League. Now, what format that has, if it's just single playoffs in neutral venues or whatever, we'll have to wait and see. But I think they'll definitely play it, and I think they'll play it after the seasons are finished in August.
Fantastic. Nima, thank you so much for joining in.
Pleasure was mine. It's great to be with you.
Thank you very much. So we know each other now, so
yeah,
don't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
And everybody that's joined in sent in a question from Tade, Debayo, Jeffrey, Henry, Kuste, Boyo, Lamid, Amos, Jiboye, everybody that's joined in. Henry, thank you so much for joining. Till I come your way another time, have a lovely day. And Nima, all the best. Please stay safe.
All the best to you guys, and thank you for having me, and everyone listening. Take care of yourselves and stay safe.
All right, guys. Okay, all the best, guys, and that's a wrap.
Ciao.